The following special program is proudly presented by Apalco Enterprises.
Duty, honor, country. To the millions of men and women who served in America's armed forces, and to those who serve today, these are more than just words. They're a lifelong commitment. And for those whose names are inscribed here on this monument, they have an even greater meaning. These are the names of the select few who, in the name of their country, have selflessly performed their duty to the fullest and have been chosen to receive our nation's highest military honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. This is a story of their journey on the battlefield and here to Indianapolis to this monument dedicated in their name. The story of the true 20th century American heroes.
Here's the enemy. The least you could do is try to fight them off.
We knew where we were going. We knew we were going to fight, and we had to depend upon one another.
They started throwing everything at us, machine gun fires, mortars. I could live all that over just second by second.
Back in your guns, and I pointed, look, your plane's coming now.
The team's what made the difference, not an individual, but the team.
I wanted to live, but I wanted my people to live. I wanted us to do the job that we were sent there to do. I think it's hard to describe it unless you've experienced it. Nothing but noise. Artillery, the rounds coming in, mortar rounds whistling in.
Because it was so close. We had the vehicles on fire, we had the radios out, we had most of the guys were wounded.
I went away a kid and came back an old man almost.
There's no Rambo in combat. People run out of bullets, they run out of lives.
And I fired 1,000 rounds, and still it didn't make any difference. No matter what I did, it didn't seem like I was making any headway.
When we came into the rice paddy, all hell broke loose. From then on, it was just terrible. People were getting killed, and it's just no way you can describe it, the sound.
It's certainly a sacrifice. A sacrifice because we all love freedom. This country and this flag. We must never forget that.
We wear these medals not for ourselves, but for the men and women with whom we've served, and for the countless men and women who have given of themselves without recognition.
They come from the heartland, the plains, the coasts, from all corners of the United States. Individuals whom you might pass on the street without notice. But they are special. These are men who acted, not for fame or money, but out of a sense of devotion, for love of country, for love of their comrades. Their life's journeys have brought them together in Indianapolis for a moment of richly deserved recognition, to see a grateful city and nation pay tribute to their sacrifice. For John Finn, the journey began almost 60 years ago on America's Day of Infamy. Now in the mountains of Southern California, just a few miles from the Mexican border, he's a collector of pieces of the past, of memories.
Hey, muy frío.
Over the years, collecting what, at first glance, might seem to be useless junk, piles of rusting metal. But in the eyes of the collector, they are anything but worthless. They are a reflection of John Finn's past, an old motorcycle ridden in his youth, or the 1938 Ford he drove 57 years ago in Hawaii.
Some of my most vivid memories are of this old car.
Time has taken away the once blue paint, and what is left of his old Ford sedan barely resembles the car that John Finn drove on that Sunday morning in 1941, the morning the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor.
It don't hardly look like a car anymore.
Driving to the Naval Air Station at Kaneohe Bay, John Finn saw the first of the Japanese airplanes on their way to bomb an American airbase.
I just about got around the base of that hill and I heard a horrible running, roaring behind me, a plane approaching from astern, you know. The minute I saw that red ball, I knew it was the Japs. And then I threw this little old car, and I mean it would go. I threw it in second gear and I went tearing down all the way to the hangar just as fast as I could get there.
Finn drags a .50 caliber machine gun to the middle of the airfield and opens fire.
Now I began to get mad. I looked around there and I could see, man, we already was some planes starting to burn. I started firing at those jet planes, and that's what I did for the rest of that attack.
Although wounded many times, Finn continues to return fire, demanding other soldiers do the same.
I said to this kid, I yelled at him, I said, get back on your gun, planes are coming. Get back on your guns, and I pointed, look, the plane's coming now, you can see them.
Aviation Chief Ordnance Man John Finn stays at his gun until the last attacking Japanese plane has gone, and for his heroism and conduct is awarded the Medal of Honor.
I couldn't conceive of doing anything else. Chrysler's the enemy. The least you could do is try to fight them off. Can you imagine that chicken follows me everywhere I go?
57 years later, John Finn only fights off his dogs and a chicken he says that thinks it's a dog.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Happy with their companionship and happy with his collectibles. The Medal of Honor he received for his actions at Kaneohe Bay is one of the many items held dear to John Finn, all part of his collection. The sounds of a cheering crowd are a welcome recognition of the accomplishments of these heroes, a thank you for an outstanding job well done. But for many, it's difficult to drown out the memories of the past, of campaigns fought, of friends lost, the echoes of battle.
I asked God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey.
A poem by an unknown Confederate soldier hangs in the home of a veteran, a soldier decorated with the Medal of Honor.
I asked for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things.
If you ask Clarence Sasser about the things he has done, he wouldn't say they were great things. He would say he was just doing his job. His job in Vietnam was as a medic. With his company under heavy attack from well-fortified enemy positions, Sasser is immediately hit in the leg by enemy fire, the first of several wounds he would receive over the next 16 hours.
By now, we're receiving incoming fire, pretty heavy, and then the mortars start coming in. From then on, it was just terrible. People were getting killed, and it's just no way you can describe it, the sounds.
During the first few minutes, over 30 casualties are sustained. Refusing medical attention himself, he runs through a barrage of rocket and automatic weapons fire to aid the casualties.
The worst thing I remember, or the most graphic thing I remember, was into that night, was just hearing your friends calling for their mama. I mean, you know they were dying, you know they were seriously hurt, you know there was nothing you could do for them other than a little bit of comfort and at least make dying a little bit easier for them. Every time you go back, you always bring back the memories and everything. It takes a while to put them back in that little box and shut the lid on them. I asked for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything I had hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am among all men most richly blessed.
Their deeds beyond imagination. Soldiers finding the strength to go on against insurmountable odds. Their strength comes from within or is drawn from others. For Second Lieutenant George O'Brien, strength comes in the form of faith.
Before we'd go on patrol, before I knew that they might get hurt, I asked for guidance, just a passage from a Bible and a short prayer, just asking for help. It seemed to work.
Korea, 1952. Second Lieutenant O'Brien will lead his troops into battle, but not before leading them in prayer.
I always ask God to help me lead them as they should be led.
During an assault to retake a vitally important hill known as the Hook, O'Brien leads his men through a hail of deadly small arms, artillery, and mortar fire.
I had to get my men moving. They were throwing satchel charges, and we'd throw them back. We'd throw their grenades back at them.
Although shot in the arm and thrown to the ground by hostile automatic weapons fire, O'Brien continues to lead his men up the barren hill.
This was a bald hill. It had been blasted so many times. There was no trees, not a weed standing. It's just dust around this entire area. And you could just look in the air and see the mortars fall.
Without cover and refusing medical attention, Second Lieutenant O'Brien continues to advance up the hill, engaging in hand-to-hand combat, killing several Korean soldiers with his bayonet. For nearly 4 hours, George O'Brien leads by example and by faith. Retaking a hill of vital importance, a barren hill covered only by dust and the bodies of fallen soldiers. From the barren battlefields of Korea to the dusty oil fields of Midland, Texas, George O'Brien has relied on faith. Faith in God and faith in the soldiers he served with in Korea.
This medal is not mine. I just hold it in trust for all the kids that helped me. And that didn't make it. They earned it.
Our Father and our God, we thank you. We thank you for the men and women whom we remember on this Memorial Day weekend. Especially, we thank you for the courage and ability you gave to the recipients of our nation's highest honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. We commit this occasion into your hand, and we say Godspeed.
At IPALCO, we are extremely proud that we've been able to bring nearly 100 of our nation's greatest heroes to Indianapolis for the final Memorial Day weekend of the 20th century. The beautiful new Congressional Medal of Honor memorial that has been built in White River State Park will stand as a permanent tribute to the bravery and selflessness of these individuals. We should never forget that it is because of their immense courage and the courage and sacrifice of millions of men and women who served in uniform that we can enjoy the freedom we experience today. As a symbol of heroism, the Medal of Honor has no equal in American life. We invited the Medal of Honor recipients to Indianapolis so that we can say to our children, this is what real heroes look like. These are people who did not act for money or fame or power. They acted out of an inner sense of duty. They acted for their brothers in combat, and they acted for their families and friends. Maybe in the end, the truth is, they did it for you and for me, for our children and grandchildren. The 2,000 employees of IPALCO want to thank all of you for welcoming these courageous men to our state. We appreciate your joining with us and simply saying thank you to these most noble and precious American heroes.
Honor, a showing of unusually merited respect, a person of superior standing whose worth brings respect or fame. This weekend, the city of Indianapolis honored the not only 100 visiting Medal of Honor recipients, but all those who over the years have given of themselves to defend our freedoms, demonstrating the meaning of the word honor, and in the process, perhaps brought renewed meaning to Memorial Day.
This service and the other events throughout the weekend demonstrate clearly that the people of Indianapolis fully understand the true meaning of Memorial Day. Americans showcase the resilience of a free people, motivated to victory through a firm belief in a way of life worth fighting for and indeed worth dying for. Through your efforts, your children and grandchildren become familiar with the great struggles of this nation's history and the immense hardships endured in the pursuit of freedom and justice. These are men who know that freedom is not free.
World War II veteran Vernon Baker's journey has given him a deep appreciation of what the flag stands for. As a member of the then segregated Army, he knows firsthand the pain of serving and fighting for freedoms, many of which were to be denied to him and millions of African Americans.
You see the star when it's clear. You see the stars at night. It's so quiet that the birds fly through the air. You can hear them.
The peace and quiet of a remote cabin in the backwoods of Idaho.
Go. Come on, you want to go?
A 45-minute drive to the nearest town, the small logging community of St. Mary's. This is where Vernon Baker now chooses to live, far away from the battles of city life, far away from his battles with racism.
Every time I'd go in to look for a job, the job was always taken. It was always full. And I began to get real angry, and at that time I was a real angry black man.
Jim Crow rules were in full swing. Separate water fountains, bathrooms, and buses. Segregation was a part of life for African Americans. Even with a good education, jobs were hard to come by if you were black, and Vernon Baker wanted more than to shine shoes or clean floors, so he joined the Army, which at the time was also segregated. And in World War II, blacks in the military were called Buffalo Soldiers. Baker recalls that the Buffalo Soldiers were regarded as too worthless to lead themselves, so the Army put white officers in charge and sent the units into some of the worst battles.
We knew where we were going. We knew we were going to fight.
Leading his platoon through minefields to a target 3 miles behind German lines, Lieutenant Baker demonstrated outstanding courage and leadership during his company's attack, at times crawling to enemy machine gun positions and destroying them.
Then they found out that we were there, and they began to beat on us with mortars, machine guns.
At the height of the battle, the white commander of the Buffalo Soldiers left his troops, saying he was going for reinforcements. He would not return, and reinforcements were never sent. Vernon Baker would later find out that the captain had given them up for dead. But First Lieutenant Baker would not give up. Drawing enemy fire upon himself, what was left of his platoon was able to pull back to a safe position. Looking at the Medal of Honor he received for his heroic actions brings back memories.
I accepted this in the name of the men that are not here with me. They're the ones that are heroes. And they're the ones that earned this for me. If not for them, I probably wouldn't be here myself.
The memories of the 19 men left in northern Italy are still with him. The anger he had as a young black man, he says, is now gone. General Colin Powell once said, "Vernon Baker is a national inspiration, a national role model. He is a role model because of the quiet dignity he portrays. He is a role model because he never shirked his duty, but went quietly about his life, believing in his country, believing in service to his country. He didn't just give one day of combat, he gave decades of service."
The battles rage around it. The flag still bravely flies, a tribute to the living with hope that never dies. For those who live in hallowed graves, we bow our heads and pray. We can enjoy the freedom, for the flag still flies today.
The flag of the United States of America, Old Glory, a symbol of our country, and a reminder of what our soldiers fought and died for, freedom. Freedom is very special to Leo Thorsness, who has fought for it and lost it. During a mission over North Vietnam, Lieutenant Colonel Thorsness's wingman is shot down by intense anti-aircraft fire. And as rescue efforts begin, Thorsness spots an enemy aircraft taking aim on the crewman as he parachutes to the ground.
There was no question. The MiG's intention was to, hose that guy as he's floating down the parachute.
Thorsness immediately attacks and destroys the MiG-17. Forced to refuel his F-105 aircraft, Thorsness returns to provide cover for the rescue. But the World War II Corsairs used in the rescue effort are under attack.
It was a pitiful sound because he's got this old World War II prop airplane and 4 MiGs on him. Not a chance won, really. And he said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I said, keep talking, hold your mic button down, just keep telling me what to do, and turn that airplane as hard as you can, as low as you can. Just turn as hard as you can. They can't turn with you. And I said, I'll be there in a minute.
Although out of ammunition and again critically low on fuel, Thorsness draws the fire of the enemy MiGs, allowing the other aircraft to escape.
I can still kind of get goosebumps thinking about those kinds of missions where you won or they won. And it was either life or prison.
11 days later, it was prison. Just a few missions short of going home, Leo Thorsness was shot down and became a prisoner of war.
There's all of them in one of you. And there's all sorts of ways of inflicting just severe pain.
For 6 long years, he would remain a POW. The first 3 years, nothing but torture and solitary confinement.
But you didn't worry about time because your worry then was tomorrow. Will I survive torture? Will I be tortured again tomorrow?
To survive, Thorsness would walk in his 9 by 11-foot cell, filling his mind with thoughts of home.
And we spent a lot of time walking in silence because that was tough times. And we figured out if we walked nearly all day, you could make 10 miles. If you walk 6 days a week and took Sunday off, that's 60 miles a week. 3.2 years, you're going to walk 10,000 miles. That's how far we were from home. So to me, in my mind, I knew that if I walked 10,000 miles in that cell, whatever had to happen in the world for me to get home, I would be home.
Lieutenant Colonel Leo Thorsness would return home decorated with the Medal of Honor and a great appreciation for freedom. William Jennings Bryan wrote, "What have you done for freedom? If nothing, what can freedom mean to you?"
We wanted our young people to understand that money and fame are not motivations of the true hero. A sense of duty and honor, the love of family and country, loyalty to friends, these are the forces that foster selfless acts of bravery. We express our gratitude, not just to you, but to the millions of men and women you represent, who served gallantly and well by your side. We hope that we've accomplished what we set out to do, and that this new memorial will say what is in our hearts, and that is, from the bottom of our hearts, simply, thank you.
So when you see this medal, we would ask that you remember that each of us are like you, ordinary people, that because of that magical confluence of events and time, we're called upon at one spot to reach down deep inside for a potential that Providence has given to each and every one of us to do something that others at a later date would determine to be extraordinary. And this medal, if it reminds you of the potential that exists in each and every one of us, the potential to literally challenge fate and change the world, perhaps it will remind us to be respectful of one another without a medal being present. I would ask that each of us attempt to live in such a way that we, like those who have given their last full measure, are truly worthy of God's blessing.
O God, let each of us be aware of your grace and the goodness of people who love one another. Stir our memories to make us better people and Americans, and help us remember we are here because others cannot be.
In an era where we try desperately to find heroes either on the sports field or on the screen, these are the individuals who've earned that name. Not because they aspire to that status, but because they possess that quality both in character and deed. The Medal of Honor symbolizes not just the best in those who receive it, but hopefully the best that dwells in all of us. For Channel 13, I'm John Stair. Good night.
You can't buy freedom on a piece of plastic. It just doesn't work that way. It takes blood, it takes sacrifice.
Hopefully it'll mean something to the next generations that come along, that they may, hopefully it'll instill some bit of patriotism or pride in what's been given to them and earned for them.
The medal that we were given proves that anyone can do that which is extraordinary if their heart and mind are so dedicated.